So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 1 o'clock session in the Spotlight Theater. My name is Tom Banton. I have been at Apttus for 4 years now. I have been in CPQ longer than most people in this conference have been born. I've been doing it for about 30 years. So we talk about, complexity in CPQ. I go to every company and they say, we're the most complex business you've ever seen. Everyone says it. And I've even been to the companies that sell the exact same thing where the complexity might be pricing in one division, it's product management in another division, it's workflow. So there's a lot of different things that can be complex, but also one of the most complex things you have to do is change your organization. So we invited Keith Putt today to talk about how he made changes at Precor. And again, we heard about Keith yesterday. Precor is a really cool company. It's kind of one of the, when we build demos for fun, like we do exercise equipment because it's the perfect, yes, we actually do build demos for fun. It's weird, but we do that. But anyways, a couple of things that struck me when I talked to Keith. What I liked about it is they made their CPQ decision a global decision. So they had calls at 8 o'clock in the morning so everybody around the globe could participate. They had everybody get their voice heard as to what they wanted in a system. It doesn't mean that all of those requirements were met, but at least when we said we don't do something, this is why. But at least they listened to everybody about it. And again, the whole purpose of their project was trying to do something right in one place the first time, which is something we really try to do in any sort of CPQ implementation. So with that, I'd like to introduce Keith. Take it away, Keith.
Great. You hear me okay? Kind of, sort of? Okay. All right, thanks for everyone who's here intentionally, and everyone who's not here intentionally, thanks for joining us as well. So I apparently have clicked on a couple slides here. There we go. Okay, so Precor is a global organization. It is a subsidiary of Amer Sports, which is based out of Helsinki. And our sister companies include Wilson Sporting Goods, Atomic, Solomon, Arc'teryx, Sunto, Mavic. So a lot of great brands within the sporting goods space. One of the things that makes Precor unique within that group of brands is the fact that we sell these really large pieces of fitness equipment, right? We have these bases of a treadmill that are hundreds of pounds and these consoles where all of our other sister brands are selling apparel, footwear, winter sports. So they kind of have a lot of commonality within them. And so as a result, our processes tend to be over on them, by themselves as opposed to our sister companies. And as a result, globally, we have to do a lot of legwork to really empower the business within the individual regions to represent Precor well. We sell fitness equipment that's both on the commercial side and consumer side, actual physical equipment as well as programming. In the area of connected devices, many of our commercial pieces of equipment are now connected. And so that creates a great opportunity to provide content down to the end user. And then multi-channel. So we have a little bit of consumer business that's direct, the rest of consumers through dealer. And then globally, we sell both direct to end customers, such as a Gold's Gym or a YMCA, or we sell to a dealer who may then be selling to a university or a hotel. So multi-channel in that regard. So from a current state, we've been running Salesforce globally for about 6 years. So I'd say over the last 3 years, we've really improved our adoption on that platform. We currently quote in North America via big machines, which we're in the process of replacing. That's what this process did. And we use Excel everywhere else around the globe. And it's not that we use Excel in a consistent manner. Every single region has their own Excel.
Once again, all breakouts have been started. Please make your way to each session. Once again, all breakouts have been started. Please make your way to your session. Thank you.
So with this process, we were looking for a global solution that could replace both our CPQ in North America as well as all the quoting solutions around the globe. From a metrics perspective, visibility of what's in the pipeline from a quotes. If you have local Excel spreadsheets, you're not seeing what's the type of product. If I'm manufacturing my cardio commercial equipment up in Woodinville, Washington, which is where we manufacture it, I don't easily get a piece of equipment over to Europe or APAC within a 7-day period. So understanding the supply chain is really important there. Define weighted pipeline. So when you're trying to forecast and you're trying to understand where you're going to be at the end of a quarter, that weighted pipeline becomes really critical, and if you can see the details behind it, it gives you even more visibility. And then a global approval process. If you're sitting there in email and Excel, what's your global approval process look like? Well, I sent the email to my manager, and I got an email back that said it was okay. Well, do you have any integrity around that Excel spreadsheet? Did anything change? So putting an approval process in is really critical. And then from a customer engagement perspective, if you think about the quality of output, our expectations as buyers have changed over the last 10 years as to what you expect that output to look like. You now expect a PDF. You expect it to be kind of, colorful and glossy, have the relevant product information. Whereas 15 years ago, if it just had the right product information and pricing, you're probably pretty happy. And so from a competitive landscape, looking what our competitors are doing, it's really important to step up our game in regards to the output documents that we're providing to our customers. E-signature, eliminating that email coming back from the customer that says, oh yeah, that's what I want, I'm good, go ahead, and then have to deal with conflicts later. The ability to have e-signature out of the box from DocuSign is great globally. And then the second piece is tax. In North America, today, our reps go to a website, they type in the zip code and the amount, and it gives them back a tax amount, and they pop it into the CPQ tool, right? Using Avalara, we'll be able to do tax globally and manage all of our products, because all products have, what is a product, it's an installation, it's a warranty. Everything's taxed differently in each jurisdiction, and it's just, you can't possibly know the details, right? So using a tax service in this particular scenario, very cost effective. It's an easy decision.
Just a question here. So we talked about complexity, and I talked about different ways that have it, but Precor is a perfect example of you have product complexity, you have pricing complexity, you have sales channel, you sell through multiple channels, you have, again, products that can't go together, and then you also have people that are looking for, you aren't just selling a widget, you have to actually sell them on why your equipment is better.
Yep.
So again, I just want to point out, they're like, again, a perfect fit for everything you can improve upon to make those different processes less complex.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things about when you look at the organization, you go, how can we execute effectively and consistently? One of the biggest challenges is having a repeatable process, right? Oftentimes your repeatable processes happen because I've had the same body in the same position for the last 6 years, and they do the things the same way. Well, so what happens when you're trying to expand your global footprint by adding density to your go-to-market teams? I'm going to take Texas and I'm going to divide it from 2 territories to 3. Well, do I have a repeatable process that I can inject that third sales rep and the customers aren't going to see a difference? Or do they have their own ways of doing things, right? So it really becomes around organizational efficiency, taking that complexity out of it and making it really simple for the end users, whether that end user be an inside sales rep, an outside sales rep, or a dealer. So our path to success. So we started with building requirements. So this project we actually started in 2014, and it took us about 6 months to get a requirements document together. And this was a cross-functional team. It included multiple review sessions with the teams, redlining documents, clarifying things. And the intent of it was not to get into a detailed aspect around an exact process, because we knew that we had disjointed processes across the globe. The intent was to say, what is our intention of the function of the application? If the intention is to provide a quote to the customer, what type of information do we want to provide to the customer? Not what does your output want to look like, because with Apttus CPQ, you can customize that all you want to the individual local markets and have them specify what's important to them. But from a requirements perspective, what are those common core requirements that we need to be looking for in a solution? Identifying processes. So it's a great opportunity as those things come up and we think about change management to take that process and be able to put it over into a side list. If you're having a one-on-one conversation with someone and they really want to tell you about how they do credit approval on individual orders and they've got to get Joe in the other room involved, well, that's not necessarily my design document. That's part of a process, and it's a process I want to look at once we've looked at the tools and understand what's our best happy path in regards to a final solution. So taking that information, document it as a topic, who's the point person, let's put it on this list over here, and we're going to come back to it. By doing that, we're acknowledging to the end user that that topic is, I totally understand is important to you. It's important to the end results of this project. I just don't really want to talk about it right now, right? And so it gives that acknowledgement and builds that trust between a team and your remote counterparts. In our scenarios, I work at our headquarters up in Woodinville. We have shared sales offices around the globe. So whether it be in APAC or Australia or Israel or Germany or UK, they're all spread out. And so you don't have those same working relationships as you do with people in the office. And so as a result, there's always kind of this like arm's length, like, oh, it's HQ. What's headquarters going to do, right? Have they thought it through all the way? I'm not sure it's going to work for me. So those are all the things when you start this building requirements, you want to be thinking about is how do I start to head off all of those different questions? So from a high level perspective, your executives have one opinion, your sales operations, sales reps all have another opinion, right? They come at the problem from two different aspects. And so understanding both of those aspects and the questions that you can ask to help bridge the gap. What do the success metrics look like? What are the success factors? Again, those two audiences have very different opinions. From a business requirements, thinking about your sales process, your product and configuration catalog, your pricing models, your approvals, your integration considerations, your outputs, and any other technical considerations. So those are all the various kind of high-level topics that went into our design document, right? So again, not at a 5,000-foot level specifics, but at a 30,000-foot level. So the second part of our path was our selection process. So once we had this design document put together, we made it available. We selected initially 3 different vendors to send it to. We sent it to the incumbent, which was Big Machines. We sent it to Apttus, and we sent it to Steelbrick. And the primary reasons for that was one is Big Machines is who we were using in North America, and so it becomes a responsibility of the competitors to unseat the incumbent, right? We really want something on the Salesforce platform, and so Apttus and Steelbrick both fell into that category quite nicely. We had a 4th vendor, which was Calidus Cloud added. Now, Calidus, like Big Machines, has a kind of what we call a loose integration to Salesforce. It's not native on the platform. But the reason we added it in because we had a new sales manager for the UK start in November. And Justin had come from one of our competitors over in Europe, and he had run all of EMEA for a competitor. And so he had heard about this project, and he's like, oh yeah, we implemented Calidus Cloud. It was great. Well, so as a user who's already in a project and already has all these other vendors queued up and we're working on demos, the response could be, dismiss it, we got it, right? My response instead was, great, let me get in contact with them and see if they'd be available to do a demo. Because instantly, it started to develop a trust relationship between myself and Justin. It validates the fact that one of our competitors is using a tool. It'd be kind of nice to see what they're using, right? How are they using it? And for him to be able to have a reference point to see, oh, this is how they were the availability of the functionality in a tool versus the other tools that Precore is looking at. Okay? So by simply investing some time, it built trust and credibility into the selection process, which was really critical. The recording of sessions. There is no reason why you shouldn't be using your WebEx, your GoToMeeting, your whatever, and recording these sessions. You output it, you post it to a share, you make it available to the team. It's a great way of communicating information and reiterating what's going on.
And a key point to that, and we do this now, we record all the demos because then we pass it to PS. We try to bring in professional services in the sales cycle. That's a new thing we're also doing, but they're sometimes not always available. So at least professional services can see all the demos that we built in the sales cycle, so they're not starting over from scratch. So that's a key point.
Yeah. And interesting enough, and Holly, our sales representative at the time with Precore, is in the audience, and so she'll appreciate this notion. So you get through a selection process, and you decide, okay, we're moving forward with Apttus. This is the right decision for Precore. Well, so you go and you're like, go to my president. I want to make sure we're good. I'm signing the documents. He comes back to me and is like, let's get you in front of senior leadership, the VPs of sales. Let's just make sure that we are all on the same page about how this is going to impact the business. What? They've been part of the process. They've been saying yes to all the right things. All their teams are involved. So all of a sudden you had a change management issue going up that said, am I willing to make that final commitment? So you look at the calendars. You got trade shows in the US and Europe. You got vacations. You're looking like 5-6 weeks out before you can get this group together for all them to do is go, oh yeah, we're all on board. So it took an evening, couple hours. We had about 4 hours of recordings from Apttus around our demos. And with that, put it down to a 15-minute and 30-second highlight reel. No title screen, no voiceovers, just raw. Here was the demo of how it works. Cut and paste it into the right order. Send it out. Within 2 hours, my president had watched that video and emailed the rest of the senior leadership that we had sent it to and said, go watch this, give me the go-ahead. We got it done. So I'm sitting over in Europe dealing with actually requirements gathering for this project because we kind of kept moving along and get the approval, move forward, and the rest is history as far as executing our agreements. But taking those agreements, putting something in front of the executives, which is really actionable. It's harder to get 30 minutes on their calendar all at once. It's really easy for them to give them a 15-minute video when they're sitting at the airport waiting, that they're like, okay, I can watch that. They can commit to that. So with the selection process, it was it was cross-functional, included finance, your inside sales, your outside sales, your technical individuals. We invited the 4 vendors to present. Multiple of the vendors asked for a demo of our existing environment, so specifically on Big Machines. It was great. Big Machines actually asked for a demo of the Big Machines environment as well, which we thought was somewhat interesting. Several of the vendors asked for pre-demo demos. So taking myself and a couple of my Salesforce admins and say, we'd like to run through the demo script with you. Sometimes when you think about that change, is it the littlest thing that users get hung up on? Like, it happens from a technology side. I sit on the technology side about 50%, the business side about 50%. If you call my products something else, right? Or if you don't understand that a console goes onto a treadmill and is not a separate thing that you can just sell by itself, do business users sometimes get hung up on that concept? And they're like, they don't understand my product. And they stop listening, and they stop looking at the demo, and they stop thinking about how could this thing be really implemented, right? So by doing that pre-demo demo, you knock out all of the misunderstandings, the terminology, things like that, that you can be easily corrected, such that you have the biggest impact on the end users, right? The other thing is it provides you a really great opportunity for coaching. So in our example, we have been on Big Machines for about 6 years. We implemented it twice, right? Make sure we got it right. And now we're going to implement Apttus, right? In that process, we determined that we're going to go live with North America first. We're then doing China, and then we're going to do UK, Germany, and the rest of the countries. And we'll have all those done this year. Okay? What was one of the key things in conversations during a demo that became really critical was if someone says, okay, so for North America, for the first launch in May, we're going to, no. The design and build is all about a global solution for the company. It's not about North America. We happen to be going live in North America first, yes. And so there's a different schedule from a master data perspective that you need for North America, but we're not designing a solution for North America. The simple little verbiage becomes really critical when you have someone sitting at 8 a.m. from Germany and someone sitting in UK listening to a call and trying to participate remotely. So really helping coach, what is that perspective? What's the end user's perspective? And how can the team, the Apttus or whoever's involved in your projects, help support this notion of what you're trying to accomplish? We did technical demos with our administrators. So let's get it behind the scenes. So that way you take the pressure off of having to gloss over those things in a demo in front of the cross-functional teams. And then we talked about the highlight reel. So on the design side, do as much face-to-face. It's really difficult today to fly everyone into, from Europe over to the US for like a 2 or 3 day workshop type thing. But do what you can to get in front of people, build those relationships, iterate. You don't have to get it all right the first time. So the notion of, hey, we're going to have a draft document out in 5 weeks from now. Well, why don't I send them what I have in 2 weeks so they feel engaged and it doesn't feel like a blind spot for them in regards to what this thing's going to look like. use them, leverage the team, iterate with them. Document the gaps, right? You're going to have process gaps. You're going to have gaps in the solution that you go, what do we need to do? Try to find that native path within the application. Is Precore complex? Yep. Are we the most complex? No. My perspective is you have about 80% of the companies that are in the lower complexity perspective of the types of things they sell, the types of options available, and how you sell. And then you have about 20% of your companies which you have a bunch of complexity to it, right? This option can go with this. I can customize colors. How do I want that to flow through my systems? I'm integrating with, in our case, SAP on the back end, right? So in that 20%, think about the fact that I have other people around me who have done this before. They've already had to figure this thing out. I don't need to go create custom code necessarily for it. Let me understand how the application helps support my processes. And sometimes the best question to ask is, if you knew nothing about my business and all I said was I need to be able to add these things to this thing and I have these constraints, how would the platform do it? I don't even want to tell you about how I would do it today in my current solution. So I want to understand maybe what the best practice is, right? And then you evaluate the decision of, do I stick with the native path within the application, or am I doing something customized that's different? Investigate those questions. Everything you had from your original design documents, investigate those, explore them. And then recapping back to your users is really important. So having a project manager or someone take all the feedback. So as we've done design review sessions, take that feedback, give it back to the users. It acknowledges the fact that I was heard, you listened. Even if you're taking it and you're putting it into a parking lot, you got it on paper, right? It feels so much different to the users. The exceptions and custom, make it a conscious decision. I always challenge my team. Is it a conscious decision that we're doing it that way? Or is it that's the way we've always done it? At Precore, we have a ton of longevity. We've been around for several decades. Started off with the rowing machines. Maybe you saw back in the 80s, right? With longevity means you have a lot of tribal knowledge and processes that just happen. They're not necessarily a conscious effort to do a process in that manner. It's just the way that they happen. So take those processes, and if you decide you need an exception, make that a conscious decision. When you think about your processes, it's not necessarily always that headquarters has the best option, right? It may be a mixture of processes. You say, the UK does things this way, the US does things this way. Let's look at those and let's learn things. In our solution, there's absolutely aspects that we're pulling from the UK, Germany, and China over into the way we do our work. And there's a lot of things that we're doing that will be pushed over to them. So that's some of that give and take and that recognition that when they see their aspects built into the solution, they go, oh, they're actually listening. Right? I can get behind this. Prototypes are really important. Becomes that part of that iterative process. Show them, record them. If they miss them, they've got the recordings to fall back to, right? You go back and a user says, hey, I saw it this way. I saw it a different way. Let's go find that section of the recording. Let's just walk through it to make sure that we understand what's happening, right? Even if we believe that we're right with it, don't dismiss it. And then preparing for UAT and Go Live. This is where we're at right now. It's a starting point. Your business is going to evolve. The application is going to evolve. As you saw this morning in the keynote, there's tons of functionality that come out in the next 12 months, right? There's functionality on that list that is on our list of things. I'm excited. That's the type of thing we want to see. The fact that Apttus is investing in the R&D and the roadmap to continue that project forward and investing in the solution and listening to their customers is really critical because it means it's going to be a solution that can really grow with us. Inside sales training, yeah.
So they're telling us we got to wrap it up. Any final points, Keith?
No, final points would be try to be really authentic in your communication and your change management. Listen to the users, document, acknowledge what they're saying. It's going to lay the foundation for those trusting relationships globally that will really enable your project as you move forward into UAT and Go Live. So.
The key takeaways I have is, again, involve everybody. This is any CPQ system is a sales tool. You should have a salesperson involved. Find out how they're selling the products. Take the knowledge of your best salesperson and try to replicate that in here. And again, any vendor you talk to, they've done experience. So try and get best practices in there. Don't just recreate what you're doing today, and look for any way you can possibly reduce the complexity. So we're going to end there. If you have